Good evening, folks. This is Deb and Dave, and this is your Factivist report for Sunday, the 10th of September. And we are talking about no race too small, okay? We need to start thinking beyond just the federal level, maybe beyond just the state level, and getting right down into the nitty-gritty, people. We've been talking about school committee, all right? So why not mayor's races? So I'm going to turn this over to Dave.
Now we're talking about mayor races of big cities. Honestly, we're starting with that. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Denver Town Council too. These things are important because they help shape the politics of these big cities, which in turn could possibly shape the politics of a state, especially if it's something like Chicago or Detroit or Atlanta or Jacksonville, Florida, or Boston.
Right.
And we're going to talk about some of those towns. Denver's another one. Denver's huge, actually, and we've made a lot of progress when it comes to mayoral races. A majority of those races have been won by Democrats, which is showing progress. So let me let me go there. I did show this last week, but it's worth showing again. This is from Tal Axelrod, August 5th. This is from ABC News. Democrats are overperforming in 2023's special and smaller elections. Is it a clue for Biden versus Trump? I don't know. But what I will say is let's make it progress. If you in your town would rather have a Democrat, why would you want your state run by a Republican? Why would you want your country run by a Republican? Why do you want House reps who are Republican or senators who are Republican? Why? The main reasons that I hear are superficial reasons like age. Oh, that person's too old, or other BS reasons. So, or oh, he's just an identity politics candidate when we have David Cameron running against one of the most popular governors in Kentucky, Andy Beshear, and David Cameron happens to be an African American who was endorsed by Trump. So let's start to stop the nonsense, and I think we are. So here's that article, but here's what we were talking about, specifically mayors. And they can set the tone. But depending on how big the city is, Los Angeles, Chicago. So there's a list of mayors of the 50 largest states in the United States. Okay, so we have 37 Democrats, 9 Republicans, 4 independents, but 2 of those are they were elected with state Democratic support. So they're leaning Democrat. I don't know why they were independents. I don't know. But 2 of those lean. So it's basically 39 to 11 at this point. And as these people are primaried, you have every right and reason to try to primary them. People want to primary Eric Adams. Let's just not lose to a Republican, please. We have Karen Bass in LA, Brandon Johnson in Chicago, Sylvester Turner in Houston, Texas. Okay, I'm not going to go through all of these. Most of the ones who are either independent on the Republican side or are Republican, let's go to those guys, are Texas. We have a couple in California too. Oklahoma. We have an independent in Nevada, California, Arizona. That's John Giles. Nebraska. and Miami, Florida, and Francis Suarez. Well, we just had someone win in Jacksonville, Florida. I'll talk about her in a little bit. And a running GT Bynum in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So there you go. That is a general rundown of what we're going to be talking about. The first one I'm going to be talking about is the mayor of Denver. Okay. This is the mayor's office. So this is Mayor Mike Johnston, who won as a Democrat. So let's see. Just go right into it. The programs and initiatives. I don't at this point the guy has already been elected. I don't care about his background right this second. So homelessness initiative. He's talking about trying to get 1,000 people off the street in Denver into structures and inside. So that's the big one. Let's see. We have office news. So talking about, okay, potential short-term housing locations and appointments. So the big thing was housing. There were city council races, and of course, they went back. There we go. So this is before these races have already happened. But what I will say is, why is it doing this to me? There we go.
Stayed up all night plotting this.
So, okay. Here was the huge thing that I got out of this. And Brandon Johnson is also talking about this. When you have migrants arrive into your city, you have to prepare for it.
Yep.
It costs money. Okay. Costs money. So a big concern is what happens when they come in. Not keeping them out, but what happens when they come in. That doesn't sound like a Republican city council to me. So in all honesty, I think it's still more of a progressive city council, and you have a Democrat in there. So the next mayor I'm going to be talking about is a guy that's really starting to become close to my heart. I liked Lori Lightfoot. She fought with the police unions, which was strong. So she did lose her primary, but Brandon Johnson, right up there. Find information about COVID-19 vaccines. He talks about his inauguration. So, joint letter from Mayor Brandon Johnson and Governor Pritzker calling upon the federal government to streamline work authorization for non-citizens when states demonstrate a public benefit and critical workforce shortage. So this is, again, talking about migrants. So, a couple things. This basically came out as a warning to Biden, but it's a suggestion to Biden because it has to do with immigration. And Chicago needs more funds to handle this situation.
Right.
He doesn't want to turn these people away. It costs money. So there's one more thing that I want to talk about when it comes to Brandon Johnson. Right now, my computer is freezing up and being naughty. But in the meantime, what I will say is that everybody was talking about Lori Lightfoot being too militant. Okay. And she brings up, the black issue or the gay issue. She had a minute or one day when she was only being interviewed by black reporters. Everybody lost their mind. So
Well,
is is Brandon Johnson going to back off on those issues? Probably not. August 30th, I believe it was the anniversary of his. No, it actually wasn't. I can't remember what it was the anniversary of, but he's commemorating Fred Hampton. He proclaimed August 13 as Chairman Fred Hampton Day. If anybody remembers Fred Hampton, he was a 21-year-old activist back in the day who was really moving up in the civil rights movement, and he was assassinated in his apartment, basically. But so Governor Brandon Johnson set aside a day for him, and I'm sure the Republicans' heads exploded everywhere, and I would have loved to see it. So here's another one. There's another mayor. This is Donna Deegan from Jacksonville, Florida. So
this was an upset, right?
this was an upset. She beat the Republican. Together, we will build a healthy, safe, resilient, inclusive, and innovative city that works for all of us. Every person will have a voice in City Hall and a seat at the table. You're going to hear a seat at the table a lot. Jennifer McClellan actually used that a lot too, when right after being elected in Virginia, and that
it's a popular phrase among
seat at the table.
Yep.
When you get females elected, African Americans elected, someone who is the first Native American or whatever, seat at the table means representation.
Right.
So to reach that goals. Thank you for being part of this new chapter in Jacksonville's history as we build a bridge to the next generation and industries of the future. Nothing about CRT, nothing about banning books, nothing about any of that stuff. She's talking about building industry, building up the city, making it safer, making it all inclusive.
Yes.
I mean, that's what you're supposed to do. So priorities, if you live in Jacksonville, you could say, hey, she's just blowing smoke, blah, blah, blah. She just got in, by the way, so give her some time. But these are the things that she says she's going to focus on. Again, nothing about transgenders in sports or any of that stuff. At least, infrastructure, health, economy, public safety. Oh my goodness, arts, culture, and entertainment in Florida. And then some military and veterans affairs. She does have a community outreach. She was involved in activism projects in the past, so I believe I have a page up with that. But so that's her. Some of the nonprofits that she's been, the nonprofit gateway that she's been involved with. So there you go. A couple others that I'm going to mention. Michelle Wu. Now, I'm not going to read this. Deb, you just talk about for a second what you've seen under the short time under Michelle Wu.
Yeah, she's been in just for a year. So I think the biggest thing you see that she gets criticism for
Right.
the homeless issue at what they call Mass and Cass, which is the crossing of two boulevards. There's tents, it's a rough area.
Right.
But these people are literally living on the street, and they want to tie this problem to her, but Mass and Cass has been there for 20 years, and she's been in office for 1 year. And I know I haven't really kept up with her approach to Massincast versus other mayors that have been in. I know she's been clearing. They've gone through a process of clearing it out and opening it up and cleaning it up, and it keeps coming
Right.
back. And I know she's taken some kind of a different approach to that, but to be honest with you, I can't speak to the specifics of that. But
Right.
what do I see here? Sometimes I think, she's the mayor of Boston. She's doing what she needs to do. She's been pretty, tough with, getting some criticisms from the North End people who didn't get their, outdoor seating reinstated. But they didn't get it reinstated because the people don't want it. It's too loud, and it's because of the people who live there. That's
Right.
it's not just an area to have dinner in. It's people live right outside, right on, sometimes on the second floor of those restaurants.
Right.
So, it's the what the people in the North End of Boston didn't want extended. That's who she responded to. So,
One thing I will say is everybody's talking about age and representation. You like, all these people too. This woman is 35 years old. Okay, she's Asian American and she's 35 years old.
yep.
Now, I don't know, is she straight or gay, or was that an issue?
Nope.
So that has nothing to do with it. I know there were some, inroads there with LGBT.
LGBTQ plus, rights, just like she,
Right. But that isn't an identifier for her.
No.
Her identifier is she's a young 35-year-old Asian American woman who has moved up in government and is now mayor of Boston.
Right. She's the first,
Okay.
actually, first Asian American female ever in Boston.
So I'm going to read a little bit of this. She's the mayor of Boston, daughter of immigrants, Boston public school mom to 2 boys, commuter, fierce believer that we can solve our deepest challenges through community building. As mayor, Michelle is working in coalition to deliver bold systemic change and make Boston a city for everyone. And let me reiterate, everyone. You have to think of those people who are living in tents. She's not trying to kick those people out. She's trying to work with them. Now, I don't know her homeless initiatives yet. I'll look more into that. But, these cities have to think about everybody and the people who are living right next to outdoor seating and whether or not they want, that seating. So here's a couple other things. As a counselor, Mayor Wu was a lead sponsor of Boston's paid parental leave ordinance and healthcare equity ordinance prohibiting discrimination based on gender identity, both which passed unanimously through the council and were signed into law by former Mayor Martin J. Walsh. She also authored Boston's Communications Access Ordinance, which guarantees translation, interpretation, and assistive technology for access to city services, regardless of English language proficiency or communications disability. So, it talks about how she got her start and all of that. But the point being, number one, she worked bipartisanly. That's a word. She worked in a bipartisan atmosphere with Marty Walsh. Okay, understand that. She also has gotten things done in the past, and those are the kind of people we need.
Right.
The last one that I'm going to go into is Karen Bass, because again, LA, huge city. I'm not going to talk about the mayor of New York. I will probably talk about the mayor of New York when we cover New York politics. Okay. So, Karen Bass. Mayor Bass announces preparedness and measures and urges Angelenos to take caution ahead of anticipated storm following Hurricane Hillary. And no, it has nothing to do with Hillary Clinton, by the way. Point being, when you're in these cities, storm preparedness is a huge part of it. There was a mayor in Chicago that was voted out because they were unprepared for a blizzard. This was years ago. You know, these are things that these, especially the big city mayors, have to think about. Executive initiative to support small business creation, development, and growth in Los Angeles. New inside safe effort underway in Chatsworth. So that sounds like let me see if there's anything underneath. No, sounds like maybe something having to do with homeless or safe spaces or something to that effect. I'll look into it. Um, yeah, yeah. And in California, it's another area, a ton of homeless people.
Yep.
Karen Bass signs local emergency declaration ahead of storm. Okay, so yeah, let's see here. Yeah, again, uh, state assembly member elected by her peers to serve as speaker, first African American woman ever to lead a state legislative body in the history of the United States. So you can scream identity politics, but she has gotten things done. She has pushed legislation. She has pushed messages. She is responding to storms, which is a huge thing. If we ever do something on immigration and immigration reform, I might do a little bit of research as to what her stances are on that.
We need to do immigration. Just saying.
And by the way, when when people when people talk about a seat at the table, when people talk about representation, they're not talking about everybody. Oh, except for those people who just got here. You know, we're not talking about throwing those people on a bus and sending them to DC or sending them to freaking whatever
Right.
to the vice president's house. Isn't that what they did?
Yeah, they were
They
sending them.
sent them to Kamala Harris's house.
Yeah, they sent them to her house. They were sending them to somewhere else too. I forget where else. Who else was getting that kind of treatment? But the people who were getting the treatment were the migrants, really.
Right.
Just no call for that kind of stuff. Really, it's you look at the way the GOP acts now. It's like watching a bunch of kids in grammar school problem solving. It
Right.
really is. It's they just have absolutely no core whatsoever. No central moral soul. Whatever.
The bottom line is that why would the Republicans help migrants or immigrants other than to help for their own gain?
Right.
But their cannon fodder, their weapons against the Democratic Party. And
Right.
we do have to, in a responsible manner, we cannot accept everyone. It's just not realistically possible. It's a matter of land,
Right.
okay, and space.
Right.
Everyone understands that. But with that in mind, if you treat these people with dignity and respect, and these people become citizens, and you help them, who do you think they are going to vote for?
Right.
So And on top of that, some of these people are not only fleeing their countries because of massive global warming, but also because of fascism in their own countries.
Right.
Okay, so they can identify fascism like that.
Right.
Think about people coming from Ecuador. You know, it's like, or name a fascist country. You know, especially from Central America. So I'm just saying that it is strategically, it is an untapped resource, but morally, it's the right thing to do.
Right.
Everyone who is here will be treated with dignity and respect. Okay. I don't believe in the separation of families, by the way.
I don't either.
Okay. Either everybody stays or everybody goes, or somebody there's some kind of decision made there.
Right.
You just don't do that. Some of the things that I've seen with the Republican Party are unconscionable. People who had work visas, people who had visas here to go to college were booted under Trump.
Yep.
So we'll get more into that whole thing. Immigration, migrants, all of those. It is a legitimate issue, and not everyone is going to be able to stay.
Right.
And if you're going to let people stay, those cities, Denver, Chicago, New York, LA, Jacksonville, all of those cities are going to need additional resources. Those in Texas, all of those are going to need, I believe Houston was one of those with a Democratic mayor, and Houston is relatively progressive in Texas, comparatively speaking. So uh, that's representation for everybody. You're going to hear this a lot. Now, the rebuttal is, oh, they're just an identity politics candidate. Look at their record. Every single one of those people that I read out to you have done something. I understand. I mean, I have seen so many of these candidate profiles. I'm a working mother. I understand you, blah, 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 blah. Okay, you can start in a city council, or you can start low. I probably won't vote for you, in for a House seat if there are more qualified progressive candidates out there. But so many of these candidates who are coming up, I am seeing that they have done so much. McClellan, she's impressive.
Yeah.
Karen Bass, she's impressive.
Yeah.
Michelle Wu, she's impressive. Brandon Johnson, he's impressive. The squad, I mean, and we just did a show on the squad. Every single one of those people are not only prolific in their ideas and their legislation and their action, they have actively done something. And that always attracts criticism.
It does.
AOC, I don't know. She's playing a little, I don't know if she's playing a trick. She's talking about, after my third bottle of wine, I'm going to leave X. No, I'm not going to leave X. I think she's just trolling these guys at this point. But why wouldn't she? She's gotten so much garbage over the years. And by the way, I was very skeptical in the beginning. Deb and I met right after she won. And we were like, come on, no way. But over time, we see she's for real.
Yeah.
Doesn't really matter how you get there. If you're doing something wrong, I haven't seen her doing anything wrong yet. Eric Adams, I'll get into. I don't really like the direction in which he's going. He's going in kind of like using that whole Christian thing, using religion. That makes me extremely nervous. That's what makes me nervous about Eric Adams.
No. That's
especially in New York,
right.
you know. So, but that's what we have in terms of this show. I just wanted to say that government isn't just the U.S. House of Representatives, the Senate, the SCOTUS, and the President of the United States. It's also school boards. It's also mayors. We haven't done a show on the mayors before,
Right.
but some of these mayors that are coming up are impressive. Lori Lightfoot was impressive, but she pissed off a couple of too many of the unions. hopefully, she will still do community outreach, and I will do some research on, if she's done any community outreach, if she's involved in a nonprofit, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's what I got. That's what we have. Happy Labor Day, everybody.
Happy Labor Day. But see, now you're all going to be confused because this is airing next.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
See, this is why he needs a director.
You can edit that out.
Okay. Bye.